Desert Boy here again. I just wanted to talk to you for a minute about, we were talking about lever actions, and I thought I'd continue that here with my buddy here. And as I talked about before, you know, we're getting into summer, so make sure, you know, you're drinking plenty of water, staying hydrated, taking all the precautions when you're out in the sun, you know, not to get overheated or sunburned, all that good kind of stuff. But I also wanted to continue discussions about lever actions, and we talked about the Rossi 45 Colt R92, and we talked about, which is a 10-round 45 Colt, about a 6.2 pound gun, about 37 inches long. We talked about the Henry 38 357 big boy carbine, which is a 35 inch, although it's heavier. It's almost a pound and a half heavier. It's at 7.76 pounds, and it's a 7-round. Might do 8 with 38, but 7 357 for sure. Large loop lever kind of gun. But what if you don't want to shoot something like that? You just want to go out what we sometimes call plinking. Now remember, I'm a hobbyist enthusiast. I'm just sharing with you what my thoughts are, my opinions for me. And I happen to think 22s are great for that. In fact, my first lever action was this Henry Golden Boy we're going to talk about here in a minute. And I think that's a great option when you're starting off, because it's ammunition is reasonable, and you're able to generally, you know, there's not going to be much recoil, and so that's something to think about. Although those other two calibers, depending on which which ammunition you use, sometimes you can moderate the recoil to some degree, and it's more manageable than perhaps if you were using a handgun with 357, 38, or 45 Colt. So, but now we're going to talk about 22 LR. Like I said, being a hobbyist and enthusiast, you know, I want you to talk to your own experts, people you know that you consider have good guidance for you. You know, I want you to make sure you're compliant with all your state, local, federal firearms laws, especially regarding permitting and concealed carry, CCW, training, etc. Make sure you're doing all those things, you know, to be in compliance. So let's move on now. So what do you do if you want to start off? Maybe you don't want to spend a lot of money. Now there are other options in 22s that can be less. 22s, up until the pandemic, 22s probably varied from around $150 or $200 to up to around $300 or so. If you got one of the Ruger 1022 breakdowns, which a lot of people like those as a starter, and I had a Ruger 1022 for a while. Or I also had one time, I had a Marlin little 7-shot bolt action in my youth, or when I was younger, I should say, not necessarily in my youth, but when I was younger adult. So there's different options, but this is one. Now the Henry is probably, this Golden Boy is probably a little bit higher end of Henry. They make ones that are in traditional metal and not the brass light finish like this, and they're probably prices a little more moderate. This one here, I think Henry's asking in the neighborhood of about, let's see here, it says $617 is their MSRP. I paid less than that when I got this one, but I bought this back when it was kind of the height of the previous kind of like ammunition shortage that we had. I want to say like it was back in like 2012 or somewhere back there, 2013, somewhere about 9-10 years ago. In fact, when I bought this, I couldn't find any 22 ammunition except a box of 122 shorts, which I'd never used. Now this will shoot shorts, long rifles, and longs. So long rifles are generally the traditional round that you see in 22s, which is a rimfire round, which means it gets struck here on the rim when it causes the ignition to fire, versus something like this, which is a 38, right, traditional 38, which is center fire where the primer is struck. And just to show you the difference in size, right, here's a 45 Colt and here's a 22, okay? This is like a 225 grain bullet. This one's either 36 or 40, I can't remember, because it's a hollow point, it might be 36 grains. But anyway, they can be great fun. They can be a great learning tool, you know, when you're getting proper instruction. I always recommend people get proper training and instruction on any firearm that they have. I mean, that's just a good way to start off. But a lot of people like to start with 22 because it doesn't have a lot of recoil. Like I said, ammunition is generally inexpensive. Now this gun here, as you notice, we've got another one here. There's also, sometimes it's nice to get a 22 long gun or rifle, right? Or maybe to have a 22, I call revolvers pistols. In the old days I used to call them pistols, but nowadays pistols mean semi-auto, but for a lot of people, but 22 revolver. This one happens to be a single action Ruger. It's called a Wrangler. It's a alloy gun with key parts being steel, I believe, if I remember right. And it's basically, a lot of people, they get 22 revolvers, or what we call double action. In other words, when you pull the trigger, the hammer will cock and fire the gun. In single actions, you have to pull the hammer back and then pull the trigger before the gun will fire. But it is an option when you're learning. And something like this single action Ruger here, this is fairly, well, it's gone up. You used to be, you could get them for a couple $100 or less. Now I think they're asking about $269 or something, Ruger's price. Even though it's alloy, it's about 30 ounces, so it's, you know, it's not necessarily lightweight. It has what we call fixed sights. You can't adjust the rear sight. You look down a sight groove at the front blade sight in order to aim it. And what you do to, and we'll check it unloaded, is we flip this side gate open, right? And then we go ahead. Here I am having a nice alarm right now, trying to help me with my video. And what you do, you look in here and you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, I always go around me, I check all the way around 7. You can see there's no rounds in the chamber. This cylinder does come out. There's a pin that you pull out when you want to clean it. We're not going to do all that kind of stuff. What you do is when you load it, then you close the side gate, you fire the gun. In order to get the bullets out, you actually have to line up. This is called an ejector rod, and it actually comes out and pushes the bullet out right here, the casing I should say. And you have to do that for all your expended cartridges in order to unload the gun. And of course you want to make sure it's unloaded before you close up the loading gate. As you can see, when you cock it back, you pull the trigger, that hammer back, and you pull the trigger, that releases it. As I said, you get proper instruction on how to use these. These are a little different than what some people are used to, where the cylinder swings out. That's usually in a double action revolver, and load it that way. But it is a viable option. Like I said, it's a 4.62 inch barrel. I think it's about 10 inches overall. There's a lot of holster options out there because these have become pretty common now. A lot of people seem to like them, but it's a good option when you're starting out. So knowing that this gun has been checked safe, we'll just set it down here for a minute. Let's talk about the Henry. Pardon me here, my friend. Let me get this here. And the Henry is a 20-inch barrel. This one happens to have an octagon barrel. Kind of, some people like that, makes it look more Western-like. We'll check it unloaded. As you can see, there's no rounds in it. It would eject them out the side here. We'll put that back down. To load it, you actually have a tube magazine where you pull this tube up to a place where you can load the rounds, which you can, some people might pull it all the way out and put them in the top, but there's actually a little port right here that's the shape of the bullet to put it in with the bottom. In this case, the bottom faces down and the bullet faces outward. And then you go ahead and make sure you put this, screw it back down, and this holds about, here there's 15 or 16 long rifle rimfire cartridges, and then you would rack the lever to prepare to fire it. It has open sights on it, right? It's got a buckhorn sight in the back and a blade in the front. It's a little bead on it to help you. It's got a little white diamond here to help you line it up. You kind of move it up and down, adjusting it, and it's adjustable for windage and elevation. Really nice looking gun. This is called a brass light finish. Very heavy gun though. For a 22, you know, it's a 6.7, I think, 75 pounds. It weighs more than the Rossi 45 Colt, which was 6.2 pounds. So it just shows you, they do make versions, they're like youth versions and without this brass light finish and things. And I think they make it a little shorter barrel. And then this part, which is called the length of pull, is a little shorter for if you need something like that. But this is kind of like the little brother, or the little sister, or the big boy, you know, depending how you want to look at it. And it's a good place to start. It's got a nice brass light kind of plate there on the back and this band here. So it's a really nice looking gun. And I really enjoy having these guns to go to the range. Henry makes a nice gun. There's other lever actions around, but they make a pretty nice 22. Like I said, the handgun, the Ruger's probably about, you know, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about $269 MSRP, and this one's like I think I said $617. You might find it less, I don't know. So that's a good place to start. Maybe if you're interested in lever action, you don't have to spend a ton of money, and you kind of get a nice gun. And like they have, it's just fun to go to the range, and then it's good for training and starting out. And some people like them just because they like to have a little gun. Of course, there's 22 Magnum too, but some people use them kind of for different reasons. I guess there's some hunting that you might be able to do with it. I don't know, maybe it'd be varmints or something. Not being a hunter myself, I'm not as versed in that. But anyway, just wanted to share that with you today with my friend here, and let you know that there's a good way to get started in lever actions without, you know, having a really high-powered rifle, or maybe something that's more expensive now. You know, in the case of the Rossis, they actually sometimes come in maybe about the price of one of these Henry 22s. But then again, you know, you're going to have if you can find them, you're going to have a 38 357 or a 45 Colt. You may not want to start out with that much. You may just want something with a little bit lighter recoil and so forth. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because I love the Western style type guns. And you know, we're getting into that time of the year when you know, we probably want to get out and do more things. So Three Desert Boy always says, be safe out there, whatever you're doing. And if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye now. So as Desert Boy always says, be safe out there, whatever you're doing.